friends. Today we are going to learn about checking accounts. So you guys watched the video that I had on Google Classroom, and you were able to get a little bit of information about checking accounts. You emailed me a fun fact that you learned, which was fantastic. I'm so excited you guys enjoyed watching the video and learned. So something that I thought was interesting that you might not have heard before the video was ATMs. Who knows what an ATM is? So it's an automatic teller machine, and the video talked about how you can access your money in your checking account with an ATM, but there's limits on them. So you can only access so much from an ATM. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So and I enjoyed reading all of your guys's little tidbits that you found interesting. So let's get right into checking accounts. So what we're going to learn today, the standards, we're going to learn how to document and process the receipt of a payment. We're going to learn how to balance bank statements and checkbooks, and we're going to understand different accounting functions. So we're going to kind of get the tip of the iceberg with a lot of those standards. We're going to learn the different types of documentation that we need. So we won't go into how to do some of that stuff, but we're gonna get a kind of glimpse of some of the vocabulary when it comes to those standards. So let's get right into it. Okay. So you guys had already emailed it to me, but why don't we have people one at a time come up and tell me what they learned or something they already know about checks. And we'll have you guys come up to the whiteboard and write it up there and then share it with everyone else. And then once that's done, we will go right into it. So let's see, we'll go back to that other slide real quick. So some of you guys already know about checks because I know a lot of your families use it to write checks for livestock sales, for hay, when they are paying some of their farm workers. So I know some of you are already familiar with checks, but do you really know how they work? So there was a long time when I wrote checks. I got my first checking account when I was 15 and had my mom help me. And I would write checks, but I really didn't understand how they worked. So we will get into how that actually works. So, let's see, we're going back still. Okay, so what is a checking account? So by definition, a checking account is a bank account that allows easy access to your money. Also called a transactional account, it's the account that you will use to pay your bills, make the most of your financial transactions. If you have a checking account, you can access your money by writing a check, setting up an automatic transfer, or using your debit card. And we had already talked about, so with your debit card, you can withdraw money from, you could use it just to buy things at the grocery store, or you can use it at those ATMs, those automatic teller machines, to withdraw cash from those. So on the weekend, Miss Hadley, why don't we just go to a bank to get our money out? Well, on the weekend when the banks aren't open, you can use those ATMs to get out cash if you need cash. So some people still only like to deal in cash. So, but if you deposit your money into your bank, into your checking account, and then use your debit card to withdraw cash, you will still have a record of that cash withdrawal. And then you could put why you withdrew that, to pay John for the hay. So we still have record of what that cash is being used for. So that is the great thing about checking accounts and debit cards and checks, is that there is a record of everything you're using your money for. So that's why these are really great accounts to have. Okay, so what is a check? A check, by definition, is a document in which the writer orders his or her bank to pay the receiver of the check the stated amount of money. So what does that mean? So it's a document. So a document is just like a letter, but checks are a certain way, and we'll get a look at a check a little bit later. So it's just something that's saying, I and paying someone else that amount of money. Okay, so that's how the banks know that it's okay to give John the money for the hay. Okay, so how to write a check. So we've already went over this a little bit, but who has seen a check before? Raise your hand. So quite a few of you. So we have seen checks before. We've seen them at grandparents' house. We've seen them, mom and dad write them. So here is what a sample check looks like. So this one is from Delgado Web Services. It has their address right there below it. You can see that it's check number 1. You can see that it was written on January 2nd, and then they left the year blank just because it's a sample one. So paid to the order of, what does that mean? Paid to the order of. That means who is getting paid from Delgado Web Services. So in this case, Delgado Web Services is paying Eastside Supplies. Okay. And then we have the amount written over in numerical. So $165.00. So $165 and no cents. And then you have to write it out. So you can see the 165 and 0 or no over 100. What does no over 100 mean? Right. So that means no cents out of 100 cents, because we know that 100 cents makes $1. Okay. And then it's always good practice to write the line behind when you're done so that somebody else can't come and add, like $1 million behind what you've already written. So it's always good to cross out the rest of the line there. And then there's the for line. Let's see, I guess I skipped over it. So right below where he wrote it out is Billings National Bank. So that's where the check is coming from. That's where Delgado Web Services has his check. And then there's the for. So what is this check for? This check is for supplies. And then he signed it down there at the bottom. Okay, so let's click through it. It'll tell us nice little number too. So number 1, this is going to go in order for us. Number 1, we write the date on the check. And there it is up there. Number 2, we write who the check is to be paid. We already said it's to Eastside Supplies. Number 3, write the amount in figures. Right there, 165.00. We write the amount in words. Number 5, write the purpose of the check. And number 6, we sign the check. Okay, so there it all is right there, black and white, numbered for you. Okay, any questions? Okay, we'll go on. Okay, so here is another example check. So who can tell me who wrote this check? Okay, John Example, that's right. Okay, and then who is it written out to? Sports Illustrated Magazine, perfect. What's the date on the check? January 5th, 2010. What's the name of the company or the bank? Hills Bank and Trust Company, perfect. And then where is it written out in words? 30 and 0. So do you notice how on this check it says 00 over 100, whereas the other check it said no over 100. Both are okay. So that's what's kind of crazy and cool about checks is there are different ways that you can kind of write stuff out. And it's all okay as long as you kind of, so 00 over 100 or no over 100 are both totally fine. So 30 and no, and then we have it over there written in numbers too. What is this check for? A subscription to a magazine. Perfect. And then where did he sign it? Down there in the right-hand side, John Example. Perfect. Good job. Okay, so deposit ticket. Deposit tickets are a little bit different than a check. So it's still a document from between you and your bank. And what this is, so a check where it tells where our money goes and where we're sending our money, this tells the bank what we're depositing. So here's a sample deposit ticket. So again, this is for Hills Bank and Trust Company. The account number, so this is going to be for John Example there. So his account number right there with the bank is 211-4759. That's so the bank knows where to deposit the money. And the date, January 5th, 2010. Okay, and then we have over there, so he got money from Sue. Okay, and it's cash. So we know because there's a checkbox right where it says cash, that's checked. So Sue Example gave him cash, $50. Okay, so we need to write the description every time we're doing these deposit tickets, so that way we can keep a good record of where that cash is coming from. So John example got cash from Sue example, $50. So the total deposit is $50. Okay, so let's talk about check endorsements. Okay, so a check endorsement. So what a check, by definition, the signature or account information included on the back of a check acknowledges that the intended recipient received the document and deposited. So what that means, so I wrote a check to Sue example. Okay, Sue got that check and she's depositing it into her account. So Sue signs the back of the check and deposits it into her account. That way the bank knows that Sue got it and deposited it. Okay, so everything, what is so fantastic about checks, checking accounts, check registers, deposit tickets, they are all receipts. They're all documented, just of where your money's going, ins and outs of your money. Okay. And I mean, if for tax reasons, if you own a business, if you get audited for some reason, it's always great. I know it's hard sometimes to write all that extra stuff. I mean, you could just deposit $50 in your account and then try to remember where it came from later. But if you write, hey, that $50 came from Sue example, then I know exactly where it came from and I don't have to question it, right? Okay, so let's see what a check endorsement is. So there are different kinds of check endorsements. So this check endorsement, this is a blank endorsement. So this is an endorsement consisting only of the endorser's signature. It's called a blank endorsement. So Michael Delgado got a check written to him and he deposited it into his account. So he just signed his name on the back and deposited it into his account. Okay. We also have a special endorsement. So this one, an endorsement indicating a new owner of the check is called special endorsement. Special endorsements are also called endorsements in full. They're also called third-party checks. So not very many people take special endorsements anymore just because they're messy. So there's too many hands in the pot. There's too many people, touching the check. It's just a pathway that banks don't like. They've gotten in trouble too many times where, people have signed for other people and it's just a mess. So, a lot of times these aren't good anymore, but let's take a look at them. So, here, Michael Delgado got a check written to him and he is signing over that check to Helen Goldsmith. So the check itself is written to Michael, but Helen is getting the money. Okay. So paid to the order of Helen. So where have we seen paid to the order of before? On the front of the check. That's right. So Helen is getting the money and Michael is signing it over to her. Okay. So this is the back of the check. This is where, so Michael got the check written to him from someone else, and he is signing it over to Helen. Okay. And then we have restricted endorsements. So, like it mentions here, a lot of times businesses do restrictive endorsements. Okay. So an endorsement restricting further transfer of the check's ownership is called a restrictive endorsement. So a lot of the times you can kind of see on the top there, that's when a business goes to deposit, they'll get like a stamp. And they'll just stamp the back of it because it'll say for deposit only to the account of Delgado Web Services. That will be on every single one of them. And then Michael just signs it. So that way the bank knows it's going into Delgado Web Services and Michael's doing it. Okay. That's a restrictive endorsement. Okay. So what is a transaction register? What is a transaction register? Let's see real quick. Oh, let's see. We'll click to that.